Have you ever stopped to think that the villain you fear might actually be the most human character of all? The frontman from Squid Game is not just the cold boss of the game. He is someone who carries traumas, dilemmas, and secrets that could haunt us as well. Imagine being in command of human lives while at the same time feeling guilt, fear, and silent love for a brother who could discover everything. Sounds impossible, right? But it is exactly this tension that makes him fascinating. While we watch the game, we feel trapped between fear and curiosity. We want to understand what drives him, but we also wonder if we ourselves would do the same in extreme circumstances. In this video, we will dive into the frontman's mind, discover what shaped his choices, how he deals with his internal conflicts, and what his story teaches us about power, loyalty, and humanity. Get ready to see behind the mask and discover that sometimes the monster is just a facade hiding a complex man. You will notice details you probably never noticed before, understand his decisions with a psychological perspective, and connect in an unexpected way with a character who, deep down, reflects dilemmas we all face at some point in life. If you are a fan of cinema, psychology, and want to understand the mind behind your favorite character, subscribe to the channel now so you do not miss any video. But first, comment below which character you want me to analyze here on the channel. Now let's go to the video. The frontman is that character who immediately grabs attention. You know, he is not just the masked guy who organizes the game. He is the conductor of an orchestra of chaos. From the first moment, we feel that there is something much deeper there, something that cannot be explained only by the black uniform and the rigid posture. It is as if every movement of his is calculated, but also carries a story that has not yet been told to us. Behind the mask, there is a man who lives between shadow and light, and it is precisely this ambiguity that keeps us hooked. He is not a caricatured villain, the kind who smiles and immediately shows evil. He is methodical, silent, and this generates incredible cinematic tension. It is impossible not to wonder, who is he when no one is looking? He conveys power without needing to shout. Every command he gives in the game seems cold, almost mechanical. But there is also a human touch that escapes through the cracks of the mask. And this contrast is fascinating. The viewer feels fear but also curiosity, as if wanting to peek into his real life. The one that is not on the bloody stage of Squid Game. The frontman's charm is not in charisma but in the authority he imposes. He dominates the space effortlessly, and this makes us reflect on leadership and control in our own lives. Who has never had someone who simply, with a look or a word, made everyone bow to their will? Well, that is the kind of energy he radiates. The mystery of his identity is a key ingredient. Behind the mask, we perceive that there is a man with stories, doubts, and even dilemmas, and this connects us more than we imagine. He is a reminder that people who seem invincible always have hidden layers, secrets that only life outside the scene reveals. The presence of the frontman works like a narrative magnet. He is there to conduct the game, but also to make us question. How far can someone go to maintain control and order? And furthermore, can he himself remain emotionally intact, or has he already lost himself in the rules he imposed? This questioning keeps us glued to the screen. One thing is clear, he is not just the boss of the game. He is the link that connects the cruel world of Squid Game to the complexity of the real world. Every gesture he makes is loaded with meaning, every pause, every command. It is almost as if we are watching a psychological thriller where the protagonist is not the winner of the game but the guardian of chaos. And it is precisely at this point that the viewer begins to wonder about his life outside the game. Who is he really when the mask comes off? What choices and traumas led him to take on this role? This curiosity prepares us to dive into the next chapter, understanding the story behind the frontman, his motivations, and the conflicts he carries to command the game. The frontman's story is as intriguing as the mask he wears. Before commanding the Squid Game, he had a life that mixed losses, difficult choices, and a distorted sense of justice. It is as if each experience had shaped him, building a man who learned to survive in any environment, but at an extremely high emotional cost. Growing up under pressure and responsibility seems to have been the norm for him. There are signs that he carries deep traumas, perhaps related to family or society, that pressured him to adapt too early. It is that feeling that he always had to be one step ahead, and that any weakness could be costly. He did not start as boss of the game. His trajectory includes difficult choices and moments where morality was tested in almost cinematic ways. He learned to make quick and ruthless decisions, but always with a logic that only he understands, and this makes us reflect. How many times in real life do we act out of survival and not for pleasure? Every detail of his story suggests that he is someone who learned early to deal with pain, silently. He does not show weakness, but that does not mean it does not exist. On the contrary, the viewer feels that there is a huge emotional price behind every command he gives in the game, as if he carried a secret that no one else could understand. And it is not just that, he also has to deal with the duality of being an organizer of the game and, at the same time, a player of the system itself. It is almost like living two movies at the same time, being the protagonist in one and supporting actor in the other. This internal tension is fascinating and creates complex layers for the character. The frontman's narrative makes us think about choices we make to survive, even if it means sacrificing part of ourselves. He is an example of how extreme circumstances can transform someone into a leader and, at the same time, a prisoner of their own decisions. It is impossible not to feel a twinge of empathy, even in the face of his coldness. It is in this duality that his conflict intensifies. He needs to balance the desire for control, the need for order, and the ghosts of his past. Every decision is a risk, every move a bet. And while the viewer tries to decipher his story, he keeps us on the edge of our seats, questioning whether there will ever be redemption for him. And this whole story is just the beginning to understand why he is there, commanding the Squid Game. The next step is to dive into the motivations and internal conflicts that lead him to take control of the game, revealing not just what he does, but why. Because, in the end, understanding the frontman's mind is almost like watching a psychological thriller that never loses suspense. Why is he commanding the game? The frontman is not in command of the Squid Game just for money or status, as many might imagine. There is something deeper, almost ritualistic, that connects him to the game. It is as if each match were an extension of his own life, a place where he can test limits, control chaos, and, in a way, find meaning amid the madness that surrounds him. His motivation has roots in the need for order. He became the guardian of the game because the world outside seemed too chaotic. And in a way, the Squid Game is his way of establishing clear rules, where right and wrong are defined by him, and this gives him a sense of control he may never have had outside the black uniform. There is also a psychological side to this role. He seems fascinated by human behavior in extreme situations, almost like a clinical observer. Every decision of the players, every reaction to fear or pressure, serves as a study for him to understand how far someone can go when cornered. It is disturbing but incredibly human. At its core, commanding the game is also a way to protect himself. By being at the top, he keeps distance from vulnerability. He knows the rules, understands the risks, and thus can shield himself from the chaos he himself helps create. It is an invisible armor made of planning, discipline, and calculated coldness. But we cannot forget the emotional aspect. He also carries guilt and perhaps regrets from the past, and being at the head of the game is a way to deal with it. Every match offers him a sense of purpose, even if it is dark and cruel. And this is the complexity that makes us want to understand. How can someone balance power and guilt at the same time? The frontman is also driven by legacy, even if no one recognizes him outside the game. He is building something that transcends himself, even if in a perverse way. This feeling of leaving his mark on the world is what keeps him focused and determined, making every decision, however brutal, seem almost necessary in his eyes. And there is an interesting point. He is not just the command, he is the mirror of what players become under pressure. By controlling the game, he reflects his own choices, his own limits, as if each participant were a reminder of who he was and who he could have become. This creates constant tension that gives the character an almost philosophical dimension. Finally, the frontman is there because the game is, in a way, part of him. He does not just command, he lives, breathes, and feels the game as an extension of his own story. And this connection naturally leads us to explore the next topic: the internal conflicts he faces, which make his journey even more human and complex. The frontman is not just the cold commander we see in the game. Behind the mask, there is a constant battle with his own conscience. He needs to balance the weight of his choices, and every decision he makes leaves an invisible mark on his psyche. It is almost like watching a psychological thriller where the antagonist is within himself. One of the most evident conflicts is guilt. He sees lives being destroyed, and even if he rationalizes that everything is part of the rules, there is an internal echo that does not disappear. This emotional weight creates silent tension that only those who observe closely perceive, as if every step he takes carries a shadow. There is also the conflict of identity. He is not just the frontman. He was someone different before the game, someone who lost or abandoned parts of himself to survive. And this division between the man he was and the role he plays in Squid Game generates moments of doubt, internal questioning that no one else could notice. The fear of weakness is another constant enemy. Even though he demonstrates absolute control, there is the fear that any slip could make him vulnerable. He knows that the mask does not only protect identity, but also hides the fragility that we all carry. And it is this fragility that keeps him constantly alert. Loneliness is a conflict that silently follows him. Even surrounded by guards and players, he is isolated. This loneliness is not only physical, but emotional. He cannot fully trust anyone, not even his own police officer brother. And this creates almost poetic tension reminiscent of those noir films, where the protagonist is trapped in his own world. Ambition and morality collide within him. Every decision to keep the game running is a test of how far he is willing to go to protect his position. It is a classic conflict between power and ethics, something that makes us reflect. How far would we go to survive in extreme situations? There is also the conflict of loyalty. He has to deal with rules, superiors, and his own conscience. And balancing this is a dangerous art. The tension between what he wants and what he must do makes every scene he stars in loaded with suspense, as if we were always about to witness a psychological collapse. All these internal conflicts shape a complex man full of nuances. He is not simply a villain or a hero. He is human with flaws, fears, and strategies to deal with them. And this complexity leads us straight to the next chapter, understanding his life outside the game and how all this connects to his role as the frontman. Life outside the game, outside Squid Game, the frontman is a man wrapped in mystery. He is not the same as we see in the arena. There is a parallel life, discreet, almost invisible. He is the kind of character that makes us think. How many people around us wear masks that no one sees? He walks through the ordinary world but with a weight that no one imagines. There are signs that he maintains a controlled and meticulous routine, perhaps as a reflection of the game itself. Every step is calculated, every interaction measured, as if he were constantly rehearsing for the role he plays. And this makes us reflect. Who has never felt trapped in a routine, needing to perform for the world? He probably lives a lonely life even outside the game. Deep friendships or intimate relationships are difficult to maintain when your world is divided between the mask and reality. It is as if he were a character from a silent drama. Someone who observes people's lives but rarely participates in them. The relationship with his past is also a delicate point. Everything he experienced before the game influences his choices, shapes his behavior, and strengthens his discipline. It is fascinating to realize how old traumas can become engines of determination, but also emotional handcuffs that bind us to repetitive patterns. He needs to deal with his own desires versus the need to maintain control. Outside the arena, he may feel the desire to let go, to connect, but he knows that any vulnerability can be exploited. This contrast creates a permanent tension, reminiscent of suspense scenes, where the danger is silent but constant. Even in everyday moments, there are signs of constant alertness, a watchful look, a measured gesture, the feeling that he never completely switches off from the game. This hyper-awareness is almost poetic, reminding us that some people carry responsibilities so large that they cannot even allow themselves to relax. Life outside the game is also a reflection of the choices he made to survive. He chose to be in control, to hide parts of himself, and this creates emotional isolation. It is the dilemma many face. How far is it worth protecting oneself if it means losing connection with the world? And all of this leads to an interesting point: how this parallel life influences his behavior within Squid Game. The next part will explore the frontman as a player, and how his experiences outside the arena shape every decision and move he makes inside it, making him even more complex and unpredictable. He inside the game as a player inside Squid Game. The frontman is not just the organizer. He is, in a way, a player of the invisible rules. Every decision he makes is strategic, as if he were participating in his own match, where victory is maintaining absolute control and preventing any chaos from escaping his reach. It is a silent, almost hypnotic dance to watch. He studies the players with a clinical eye, almost like a laboratory psychologist. Every reaction, every expressed fear, is a piece of the puzzle that helps him predict movements and behaviors. It is fascinating to realize that he is also playing, but on a psychological level, manipulating situations without anyone noticing. There is a calculated coldness that impresses. He knows when to intervene, when to show authority, and when to let the game follow its course. This precision turns Squid Game into a theater of constant tension, where he is the director and the players, unknowingly, the actors of a drama they cannot escape. The frontman also deals with constant risk. Despite being in command, he is not invincible. Every mistake can be costly, and he knows it. This awareness creates an almost tangible tension, reminding us that even those who seem to have total control still walk a fine line between order and disaster. His behavior within the game reflects past traumas and choices. He applies strategies learned in his own life to maintain order and control the fear of others. It is as if every step in the game were an echo of personal experiences that shaped him. And this adds fascinating psychological layers to the character. There is also an emotional component that he tries to hide. Even though it is rare, moments of hesitation or doubt appear, showing that humanity has not completely disappeared. It is in this space that the viewer connects, realizing that even seemingly impenetrable figures carry internal dilemmas that make them human. And of course, the manipulation of the game is a reflection of who he is as a person. He observes, calculates, decides who lives and who dies, but does so almost clinically, as if in constant mental chess. Every move is strategic, and that is what keeps us hooked, because we never know if he acts out of logic, necessity, or desire for power. All of this prepares us to explore the next topic, the relationship with his brother, the police officer, which adds a deep emotional and moral conflict to the frontman's story, revealing how family bonds can become even more complex when the lives of both are so intertwined. With the game and its cruel rules, relationship with his brother, the police officer, the frontman's relationship with his police officer brother is one of the most fascinating layers of the character. Behind the mask, there is a complex bond, full of history, tension, and distorted loyalty. It is not just rivalry, it is a game of closeness and distance, where every gesture carries emotional weight and deep implications. On one hand, there is care. He knows his brother better than anyone, and, in a way, feels responsible for him. But this care is always tempered by the secret he carries. Being in command of Squid Game is something he could never share, and this creates an invisible barrier between the two. On the other hand, there is conflict. The police officer bro's morality and the frontman's choices collide inevitably. It is that classic cinematic tension, where family ties conflict with the rules of the world each inhabits. The viewer feels this friction and becomes emotionally involved in every interaction. Guilt is also part of their relationship. The frontman knows that, in a way, he is hiding a truth that could destroy his brother's trust. It is the dilemma of someone who loves but must lie to protect the other, creating intense psychological tension that manifests in subtle looks and gestures. This bond shows that despite his coldness, he is still human. There is love, even if silent, even if complicated. And it is interesting to observe how their past, shared experiences, and common traumas shape the way they relate, adding depth to the narrative. The relationship also functions as a mirror. Every choice of the frontman is reflected in his brother, and vice versa. Creating a game of consequences that goes beyond Squid Game, it is almost as if every move within the arena has echoes in the real world, reinforcing that one person's actions influence the other's life. And of course, there is moral tension. He needs to balance loyalty to his brother with responsibility for the game. Every decision becomes a test of ethics, control, and emotional strategy, making the frontman a multifaceted character, going beyond the simple villain of a psychological thriller. All of this prepares us for the final topic, understanding how these factors shape his personality and choices, revealing the frontman as a complex, fascinating, and unforgettable figure, whose story is as tense and human as any great movie character. All the elements of the frontman's life intertwine to create a complex character. Traumas, difficult choices, the relationship with his brother, and the responsibility of the game not only define his actions, but also shape the way he thinks. He acts with precision, but every move carries echoes of past experiences. His personality is a balance between coldness and humanity. He may seem impassive, but behind the mask, there is someone who feels, calculates, and weighs every decision. It is like watching a psychological thriller in real time. You know that every gesture has a deep reason, even if it is not explicit. The need for control is central to him. Having command of the game is not just power, it is emotional security. This quest for control shapes his choices, making him act with caution, strategy, and sometimes even calculated cruelty. It is fascinating to see how the need to protect oneself shapes human behavior in extreme contexts. Guilt and loyalty also influence his decisions. He does not act merely as a cold strategist. There are emotional considerations, ethical dilemmas, and family connections that weigh on every step. This creates a character who is simultaneously manipulative and human, calculating and vulnerable. His past traumas function as both fuel and brake at the same time. They drive him to maintain order but also generate doubts and internal tensions. It is like watching a master of mental chess, always planning but constantly dealing with the consequences of previous moves. The duality between personal life and role in the game further shapes his choices. Every decision inside the arena is influenced by who he is outside it, and every gesture in the real world is affected by what he experiences in the game. This delicate balance creates continuous tension, keeping the viewer glued to the narrative. The relationship with his brother is another determining factor. He weighs every choice in light of this bond, balancing love, loyalty, and secrecy. This dilemma adds depth to his personality, turning strategic decisions into emotional dilemmas that only increase the character's complexity. In the end, all these layers make the Frontman a memorable character. He is not simply a villain or a leader. He is a reflection of our own flaws, fears, and survival strategies. And it is precisely this complexity that prepares us to create an engaging introduction for the video, sparking curiosity and connection with the viewer. So, what did you think about diving into the Frontman's mind? Were you able to feel the tension between power, internal conflicts, and the humanity hidden behind the mask? Tell us in the comments which part of his story impacted you the most and, while you are at it, which character you want us to analyze in the next video. If you want to continue exploring complex characters, psychological dilemmas, and stories that make you think about morality and survival, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. This way, you will not miss any video and can follow each analysis closely, almost as if you were inside the game with us.